Hello, good afternoon. Trigger Todd here, and if I look tired, it's because I am. I've been running my tail off, and I'm fixing to go to bed, so this video is going to be kind of short. The other day I did a video about trolls making negative comments about Roadrunner. Got a lot of response out of that, and so today, as a result of that, I got an email the other day from a driver that works here at Roadrunner. It was honestly one of the best emails I've ever received, and so I contacted him, asked him if I could read his email in a video, asked him if I could use his name. I got permission for all those things, so in this case I am going to name a name, and I just want to read you this video and see what you guys think about it. Also, when I got to the Commerce Terminal here today, another Roadrunner driver that I've talked with through email and on the phone a few times recognized me and came up and said hi. I did not get permission to mention his name or anything, but shout out to him. He's on his way to Nashville right now, and it's always great when you can meet the people that are watching your videos in person and talk to them and get some feedback right up front. But anyway, let's not waste any more time. Let's jump right into today's video. And we're back. I want to thank everybody for coming in today. Make sure that you've subscribed. I know some people accidentally got unsubscribed. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up. Share it on your social media platforms. You can also share it as a text message. Leave me a comment below. In the description, I always have my email address. Feel free to contact me or to leave a comment below. I appreciate them, and you're going to see that by this email here. This guy here, I want to say this. His name is Richard, and I hope I'm not mispronouncing his last name. Cerruti. He started with Roadrunner, best I can tell, back in March. That's how long he and I have been talking. Mostly we talk through email. I don't think we've ever actually done a phone call. I've never seen this guy in person. If he walked up to me today like that other driver did, I wouldn't know him. He's one of those, just like that guy I met today, that I hope that I do meet one day, because he's a really smart guy. And you can just tell by talking to him that this guy has a lot of knowledge. His emails are very well organized. You'll see that when I read it. And this isn't the guy that leaves his trash in parking lots at truck stop. This isn't the guy that leaves pee bottles everywhere. You can tell this guy's a professional. I will guarantee you, without knowing this guy or ever seeing him, that he practices good hygiene. And that not only is he successful at Roadrunner, but he'd probably be successful at any company. I get that vibe about him. And so I'm not going to brag and rant on him too long, but that's been one of the greatest benefits of starting this channel, is I've got to meet a lot of really great people. And I would definitely consider Richard and the other guy I met here at the terminal today, that I don't have permission to say his name. I would definitely consider those. The guy that I talked to, I don't have permission to use his name either, that has been with Roadrunner over 23 years, the really smart guy I talk to pretty much on a daily basis now. I would consider guys like that one of the greatest things that's come out of this channel. And so without further ado, let's jump into this email. I rambled so long that my phone went dark. All right, here we go. It says, "Hey Todd, I hope the steering wheel holders are not ruining your day, LOL. In the past 47 years, so I'm going to assume that he's been driving 47 years. That would fall in line with what I was saying. I knew he was experienced, but I missed that. I've read this email 3 times, and that was the first time I've caught that. So, as I said, my brain's a little scrambled. I'm a little tired. Anyway, in the last 47 years, truck drivers have gone from highway heroes to whatever you want to call some of the bad apples that are out here now. He's referring to my video where I had some negative things to say about a lot of the truck drivers now and the industry in general, and especially all the negative comments and the hate and discontent out there. But let's keep going. There are still some of the old breed left, but not many. The truck driving school drivers don't have any concept of what or who we used to be. That's definitely true. I've mentioned it before. There was a time, even I started in '96. There was a time if you broke down on the side of the road that drivers would stop and offer to help. At the bare minimum, they'd offer you some water or something while you were waiting for a repair truck. Now, there's some reasons why that doesn't happen now that are valid. Safety's part of it. A lot of people assume you have a cell phone now, but they don't realize you might not have signal in that area. But I think a lot of people pass by because they just figure you've got a cell phone. Used to, on the CB radio, people would say, "Hey driver, you okay? You need anything?" But now so many drivers don't run CB radios that you likely won't get a response if you do that. And so I think that's some of it, but it would sure be nice if we're all a little kinder to each other, and if some of those things returned. People used to talk to each other if you were driving at night on the CB, and it would keep you alert and awake. And now people call their girlfriends or their wives on their cell phones, and you can't hardly talk to anybody on the CB. So I've said in previous videos, it would be nice if some of the old things would return. Now, what I don't miss, before cell phones, having to look for a payphone, having to buy those silly calling cards to call home. I don't miss that at all. Having to get directions. GPS is a lot more convenient, but you do have to be careful. GPS can still get you in trouble. All right, back to the email. I'm sorry I keep getting off subject, but these are just some important things I want to point out, especially to new guys that might not be aware, or to people that aren't even in trucking. All right, here we go. It used to be slow trucks stayed to the right. Now they see you coming and pull out in front of you, so you have to slam on your brakes so you don't run over them. Yeah, that's something that I was talking with a guy about the other day. These training companies especially are teaching their drivers to run in the center lane. And for those that don't know, a lot of times trucks are restricted to the right two lanes. So you've got a truck running 62 miles an hour in the center lane because his company's told him to run there. They tell him it's safer because they don't have to worry about merging or exiting traffic. But it's really dangerous when you're coming through there doing the speed limit and you need to pass, and there's somebody exiting or getting on going real slow, and you can't pass because there's a truck in the center lane that's upholding traffic. Once upon a time, cops would write tickets for that and say you were impeding traffic, but everybody seems to just accept it now. It's really frustrating. Also, while I'm on the subject, people taking 30-minute breaks in the fuel island when you're in a hurry and you need to get fuel and go. I find that really frustrating. I've mentioned it a few times, and drivers always tell me that's just the way it is, get used to it. Well, it may be the way it is, but it's not right. And you're lucky if they just take a 30-minute break. Some of them go inside, take a shower. Some of them take their 10-hour breaks there if there's not a lot of parking. But what's super frustrating is when there is parking and they choose to park in the fuel island anyway, just because they don't want to walk. Or they drop their trailer out in the parking lot and then pull up in the fuel island. So they're taking up a fuel island space and a parking place. Or sometimes they'll drop their trailer and park their truck in another parking spot closer so they don't have to walk so far. So one truck is technically occupying two spaces. These are just some bad habits that I wish would go away. The leaving the trash in the parking lots, the pee bottles everywhere. No wonder that these places don't want trucks to park there. You kind of can't blame them. If you owned a property and drivers were trashing it that way, you could kind of understand why. But anyway, that's another rant for another day. So back into it. In most cases, I don't think they even realize they're doing it. Of course, there is always the exception to the rule. Social media has made it possible for individuals who want to rant 30 seconds of fame without having to be a man and say it to someone's face. Very true. I've had people make comments to me on Facebook that they would never say to my face. I recently watched a video where a guy made comments about another guy's wife, and I don't know if he would say something like that to the guy's face or not, but it definitely should have been handled more professionally and more tactfully. Let's try to be tactful and respectful when we disagree, and let's be willing to hear others' opinions without flipping out. And but anyway, I want to keep this going. I don't want this to be a super long video, and I'm really more interested in hearing you guys' comments. All right, let's jump back in. The lowest scum now has a platform to rant and rave without being called to account. That's pretty much what I was just saying about guys will get on here and say and do things that they would never say and do to your face or in a public forum, because in the comment section they're fairly anonymous, and so I don't know what can be done about that. I don't have all the answers. I wish I did. We used to have a few when I was younger, but they were usually taken out behind the truck stop and had their attitude adjusted severely. Yes, I've seen a few truck stop fist fights in my days. Now the cops would get called, people would sue each other, somebody would pull a gun. Almost nobody will have a good old-fashioned fist fight anymore. Or three guys that jump one guy now. It's there's no honor anymore. And I don't know, there's a lot of reasons for that. I think we can all draw our own conclusions there. Our world has not really changed for the better, but it's the only world we have. I try to live and let live when people will let me. I know you said you like OmniTrack, but I've had nothing but issues with it. For those that don't know, OmniTrack is the electronic logging thing we use here at Roadrunner. Before we had Rand McNally. There's been a little bit of growing pains switching from one system to the other. Some guys have had more success with it than others. Some guys like change, some guys don't like change. So we've still got a lot of people that are adapting to the OmniTracks, especially those with iPhones. I personally like it. This guy prefers the Rand McNally, and he'll go into that here in this next sentence. At least with Rand, if something went haywire, you could fix the issue most of the time. Personally, I don't care for it, but it's what we have to work with. Now, one more thing to remember, the Rand McNally, when we were on it, for the most part, for most of us, was, I always get this acronym mixed up, an AOBRD, whereas these OmniTracks are ELDs. The AOBRD had a lot more freedoms. You had to get above a certain speed before it tripped over into drive mode. You could move the truck short distances without tripping it if you stayed slow. The ELD, you have no real leeway, I think 5 miles an hour or something, but only for a few hundred feet. So some of that is not system related as much as government related, and so some of his frustrations may be based on that. But like I said, this is a very, very smart, experienced driver, and I'm going to take him at his word that it's not because it's switched to an ELD, that he just liked the old system better, and that's okay too. I've come to realize, and I realized this from the first video I made, everybody's not going to agree with me with every single thing I say, and that's okay. The great thing about guys like Richard here is that we can coalesce around what we agree on, and we don't have to focus on what we disagree on. If I meet Richard at a truck stop, we're not going to have a fist fight because he likes Rand McNally and I like OmniTracks. We're probably going to eat a hamburger and talk about the things that we agree on. And so that's the great thing that YouTube's allowed me to do. And I don't want to dwell on that too much more either. But like I say, I'm mainly saying some of these things for you new guys out there, something for you to consider. And maybe if you're an older driver and you've developed some bad habits, maybe Richard's example here can give you some things to think about. So let's see here. As far as Roadrunner is concerned, they're as good, if not better, than most of the companies I've worked for. Now that's saying a lot, because earlier in his video, he says he's been a driver 47 years. He's saying in 47 years time that Roadrunner is one of the best companies he's ever worked for. That means a lot coming from this guy. This is not a guy that hops jobs every 2 or 3 months. This is I mean, I could rant and rant about this guy. He's the kind of guy that he's going to get your driving awards and things like that, employee of the month. Just a hard-working, smart guy. And I try to listen to guys like this because you can learn a lot from them. And so he says, I've found most of the people that complain usually shouldn't try to be their own boss. Boy, is that true. I was telling a guy on the phone this morning, because I get a lot of recruiting calls. I get comments all the time. Their very first question, how fast will my truck run? Now that's an important consideration, but if you're going to be your own boss, it's not your most important consideration. It should be fuel economy, comfort, things like that, because you're going to be running, you're going to be working. Can I put chicken lights on my truck? Another common question. Again, that may be an important question. Some people want to have pride in their ride. But when you're trying to decide if you should start a business, is that the most important question you should be asking? And so the guy I was talking to this morning, pretty extensively, we've talked the last couple of days. I don't have a permission to use his name either, but he's a really smart guy that's asking the right kind of questions. Now he's only got a year and a half experience, and that concerns me a little, but he is asking the right kind of questions. I said the same thing to him that I said, excuse me, about Richard, and that is that this guy would be a success anywhere because he does his research, he does his homework, he asks questions, he's talking to a lot of different people besides me, and he tries to make informed decisions. And so guys like that, I think, are going to always do good regardless of the company. I happen to be partial to Roadrunner. I think you'll do well here if you're willing to do the work. But only you know that. I can't tell you how hard you're going to work. Only you can decide that. They usually don't have the experience or patience to exceed. It takes a lot of work to succeed at business, marriage, life, and all other things you find worthwhile in this life. I think any of us that's been married understand that. It's a lot of work. It can be a rewarding experience, but if you're with the wrong person, it can be a nightmare. Anything that is worth having or worth doing is usually a lot of work and takes a lot of effort. And if you're not fully committed to whatever you're doing, you might not want to jump right in. And you're going to have good weeks. You're going to have bad weeks. I tell guys all the time, expect your first 2 or 3 weeks to be kind of rough. And it may take even a little longer than that, because you're trying to fall into the groove. You're trying to see where you fit. You're trying to learn the system. Just be patient. Go with the flow. Be open-minded and see what is there for you, what they have to offer. And then after you get a little miles under your belt, you can kind of know more about what you want to do. And I'll be happy to help you with that. I counsel guys all the time, giving them advice, what I think they should do. And I encourage them to ask other experienced drivers too. I still do. I still talk to experienced people and get advice. I've by no way arrived or know everything there is to know. I've still got a lot to learn, and you never know. You may say something that'll inspire me or encourage me or teach me to look at something differently than I've seen it before that will help me in the long run. And that's why I push so hard for the comments and the emails. I don't make any money off of those, but I could sure learn something that might help me make money. So for those of you doing that, keep doing that. And then he wraps up by saying, well, I guess it's time for me to get off my soapbox. Have a blessed evening, Richard. And he puts his driver number on there. That way I know he's a real driver. This isn't another recruiter at the company that's just trying to get a positive spin out there. He didn't write this email knowing he was going to get any publicity. I contacted him after I read his email because honestly, I'm really impressed with this guy. This was a great email, and I went back and looked at the history of our conversations through email, and he usually does. He doesn't write often, but when he does, it's well thought out and full of intelligent comments, and I really appreciate him, and I hope you appreciate hearing his email. I went about twice as long as I meant to go on this video. I've really got to go to bed. Y'all have a great day, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.